Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the More Than Muscle Podcast. It's me, your host, Trainer Greg McBride, aka Mr. More Than Muscle, the Dad Bod Destroyer, and I have a special guest today. Taylor is a gentleman that I knew for a while. I'm going to give him a chance to kind of introduce himself and let him tell you who he is, kind of what he does, and I hope you enjoy this. Taylor, welcome.
Thanks for having me on, Greg. It's great to talk with you. It's been a minute since we've talked. Yeah. And I haven't seen you in person since 2015, I think. Since,
okay. Make sure it wasn't just me. I was telling my wife, she's like, who is this again? I'm like, I met him at that might have been my first show. I think that was my very first show.
Was it? I feel like I remember you saying you had done one before that. Because I remember you won the overall.
So then that was
the Hurricane.
If we met then, that probably would have been my second or third because I did the Hurricane twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because that was my second show.
There we go.
Well.
Yeah. Man. Yeah. Okay, so I want to say this. So when I first saw you, there was one thing that stood out to me. First off, you're tall. So you kind of towered over a lot of people. But you were the first bodybuilder that I saw in person where now your build is different now, but your legs were bigger than your upper body. And I saw them like
way bigger at the time. Yeah.
I'm like, it's normally the other way around. It was crazy. But as soon as I saw that, and knowing what I know now, going back and look at them, like that's kind of what needs to be for most people if they want to be successful in bodybuilding. Because
100%. And you and I both know, being in the gym a long time, that when you're a young guy, like you want to go in there and you want to train chest and you want to train arms,
the beach muscles,
and you want to train shoulders. But when I was first getting into the gym, when I was like 15 years old, I was playing baseball. And my focus was on throwing hard, was on pitching and throwing harder. So I was trying to build my legs up like a lot. Because when you're a pitcher, like all your power.
If you watch baseball, you know the build of a baseball player. They need to have big, strong legs. Again, that's where the power starts. Then you transfer it to the upper body.
Yep. Yeah, of course. And I was just concerned with being an athlete. And I remember there was a summer where 3 times a week, my dad, on his way to work at 4:30 in the morning, dropping me off at the YMCA to do some squats, and then squats and calves. I was obsessed with doing calves at the time.
Gave you a leg up on anyone, literally.
Super important to me. And then, believe it or not, I was rollerblading home from the Y, probably about 4 or 5 miles. So I was like really trying to build the legs up like any means I could.
Hey, It shows. It shows for sure.
Yeah, and when you saw me at that show, that was not far removed from baseball. Probably only about 2 or 3 years removed from playing ball. So, yeah, and that's where that physique came from.
For you, how'd you get started with bodybuilding?
I had just already been, obviously, like I said, I was already in the gym, already lifting, and there was an NPC judge working out at the Golds every day. I would see him every day, and he was a guy, Bob Laprie. Shout out to Bob. And he was like, you should just the Lakeland bodybuilding show's coming up. You should just try it out. And it was probably like 8 weeks away. And and I was like, I'm gonna try to do my own prep and just see what happens. And I decided that I was going to do a keto diet and that I was going to run 5 miles a day.
Okay, hold on. Before we get too much into that, were you training at the time already?
Being a personal trainer? No, I was actually doing speed coaching. So I was working with baseball and softball teams.
Strictly performance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Now that I think is weird. Most bodybuilders I know, unless they were like out of nowhere, just said, I want to do bodybuilding. They started really young with that whole thing. It all kind of went from sports. I had the same transition, sports. And then my primary focus as training was on training athletes. I didn't go quite to the level you did, which is like specifically was all athletes, but that was my main focus still. And
Uh-huh.
then, hell, let's give bodybuilding a try. Someone says, I
Yeah.
think you would do good. And then you go out there and
Okay.
and then that's what happens.
So I got two questions for you. What did you play?
Mm-hmm.
What sport did you play?
So my first sports were basketball and wrestling, but I switched when high school. It was football and track.
Okay. And then secondly, you being a trainer also, I'm sure that you see this. When you have somebody that's played sports their entire life versus somebody who has been
I already know where you're going. Yep.
let's just say a normie, or maybe like a less mobile person. The person that's played sports their entire life is going to have so much more of an accelerated development of their mind muscle connection. It's going to be so much easier to train them than somebody who hasn't moved.
It's crazy. That's actually in part of my intake. I ask people, were you involved in any sports?
Yeah.
So I have an idea of what to expect, because
Yeah,
if you've been in sports, you've been with coaches and we talk about movement. You have to train certain ways so you can at least have that connection, understand the way your body moves in space.
yeah,
Makes it a lot easier.
yeah.
For sure.
Sometimes I'll get those people, and it's really hard for them to even, like, I'm trying to give them cues, and they're like, "Is this it?" And I'm like, "Shoulders back," and they're like, "Is this back? Is this back?" And
Yeah.
it's like up here. I'm like, "No, dude, no." But it's not their fault. It's just
Yeah.
how it is.
You have to learn it. We all
Yeah.
did. So they're just learning a little bit later.
We just had the benefit of learning it when we were super flexible and super easy and pliable.
Oh, I don't even know this. How old are you now, Taylor?
I'll be 32 in July, so 31 right now.
Dang, you made me feel old, man. Gosh.
No, it's just a number.
Oh, it makes you feel a little different. Okay, so I still respect that. You started bodybuilding young then.
Yeah.
Shoot, my first show, I was 27.
Yeah, I was 23 or 24, I think. 24. So, but I mean,
I think that's a good age.
in terms of guys now, though, like everybody
Yeah.
now is so young, and like if you're not a pro by 25, you're not shit.
Yeah,
So,
that's crazy.
it's wild. It's wild. But,
I mean, I look at some of the physique guys out there now, they're saying they're 19 years old. I'm like, are you kidding me? Unreal.
yeah, man, it's to be fair though, I kind of was always against it, like pushing early, and really trying to go hard when you're young. But then I had Mr. Olympia himself, Derek Lunsford, basically told one of my younger clients, like, "Hey, man, if you know that you're gonna pursue bodybuilding at length and like for a long period of time, why not push early versus later on when you're more sensitive to gear, or like later on when you're more sensitive to bad side effects." I know as a natural bodybuilder and as somebody who, I don't know if you coach a lot of enhanced athletes, but when you start getting people that are 30 plus years of age on gear, you're not going to be able to get away with as much without having those bad side effects, hair falling out, acne all over the back. The younger guys are going to be much more resilient.
That's interesting.
To all those side effects. So
see, I was always curious about those. Well, at least some of that, for real, right there, that big point there. Yeah. I never thought of. I understand that our bodies change and what we're receptive to, and maybe the overall gains might be different. But I didn't think about that side of it.
That's for me. That's why I don't push as hard, and that's why I don't necessarily chase the critiques I get from the NPC judges. A lot of these judges want to see me be 30 or 40 pounds heavier than I am now, but I can't tolerate the side effects. It sucks, man. Pinning all
the time. It's crazy knowing that you can increase your levels and you could probably do it in a year, but
yeah. It's rough, dude. And obviously the cost is immense. The monetary cost of pushing hard like these guys push is insane. And a lot of people don't talk about how much it costs between the food and the drugs and the coaching and the training that these top bodybuilders go through. I guarantee you, a
Yeah.
lot of these guys are spending $50,000 on an Olympia prep.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
So
And then people wonder, like, oh, they're making all this money. Nah. If you knew how much you have to put into it, not so much.
You're not making shit. So
uh,
it's the cost is high. The monetary cost, the physical cost, the mental cost. It's extremely hard to be a successful muscle division bodybuilder for a long time. Now, when I say muscle division, I'm talking classic physique, bodybuilding, women's physique, women's open bodybuilding, the big guys, you know,
because the amount of mass that you need is
yeah. Because I mean, obviously, like you have guys, like I'm sure you've got guys in classic physique that don't run a ton of stuff now, but at some point in their career, they did some blasting. You know, there's a lot of people that like to say they don't run a whole lot of stuff, but you know, like at some point you did. At some point you had to look like that. So
yeah.
there's a lot that
So
people don't even consider. So that's all. That's all I was getting at with that.
I have a question for you based on that, since I'm pretty naive when it comes to a lot of that. With your growth and your journey right now, and you as you compete, how is it cycling for you? What's that look like?
It looks a lot different than it did when I was chasing those critiques and really like trying to play the same game that everybody else is playing. Right now, I'm a lot more concerned with longevity, blood markers, inflammation, and just overall feeling good. So right now, I'm just on TRT, about 150 milligrams of testosterone a week, split into 2 injections. And since 2018, I would say 95% of that time has been spent on a similar dose to that.
Okay.
I did do the competition in 2022 using Aspire Rejuvenation Pharmaceuticals. So everything I got was through them. So I was still on the doctor's prescribed dosages.
Yeah, you're not messing around with nothing else.
No, so that prep I was using the testosterone and then the nandrolone and then the Anavar
Okay.
at very low doses. And speaking of costs, when you go through a pharmacy like that, like a lot of these guys try to do, the costs are enormous because insurance isn't covering that. So whenever you hear anybody talk about pharmaceuticals like that, the prices are absurd. So
Crazy.
but to go back to what I was talking about, and then so that was my first cycle since 2018 was in 2022. And then I did a cycle last year for the Ultimate Grand Prix show prep in 2023. And that was testosterone, nandrolone, and Winstrol. But that was not acquired through that pharmacy just because of cost prohibitive reasons.
Okay. So with that being the case, so this is where I wanted to go with that. When you're on a cycle versus when you're off,
Right.
tell me, what's that for you? How's that feel? Because I know there's always, no matter what, it's bodybuilding. There's always a psychological side to it.
Yeah. 100%.
What is it like physically? Yeah, kind of dig into that a little bit. Let me know a little bit about that.
I think this is a great topic right now, especially because we have so many young guys on social media that are seeing, they see people geared up and they see people that are all sauced up and looking great all the time. And they want to live that lifestyle and they want to be influencers and they don't really associate what comes with being on gear. When you're young And when you're resilient, it feels great. It feels like you're on top of the world. Your confidence is really high. Your recovery ability is really high. Your appetite is through the roof. Everything's good. It's like
It's the perfect
yeah,
breeding ground.
yeah. Like when everything's just going good with your training and you're just peaking, and it just feels like you just continue to get better and better. You don't ever really have any bad weeks. Everything kind of just flows. And the hard part is when you start to come off. A lot of young lifters and a lot of young users don't really realize that you're not losing your gains that you just acquired. You're just going flat. A lot of people will see their body start to change, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm losing all that new tissue I just acquired. What do? I just going to give up, and I'm just going to not be motivated and kind of lose it all and put on even more fat." But in reality, it's just the glycogen stores. You're much less efficient at nutrient partitioning when you're not on cycle. So you're going to see that flatness start to hit, and that first time you see that flatness start to come back after coming off cycle from being on your first cycle, it's a mind fuck for a lot of people.
So that makes perfect sense too, because the last, what was it? Did I do it in 2022? So last year I competed, and I made it to the Pittsburgh for the national show there.
Yep.
And I think that was one of the bigger things I noticed is just the level of like fullness that I could see in some of those athletes. I'm like, I don't know if I could necessarily achieve that without cutting so much that I wouldn't even be able to fill out if I needed to.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure, I don't know if you've heard this, but a lot of people will say about natural bodybuilding, you can be big or you can be lean. You can't be big and lean. There's three things you can be. You can be big, you can be lean, or you could be on steroids. And you can be both. Go. So when you see somebody that's big and lean, you're like, doesn't pass the eye test. So, but yeah, you're right. The fullness you can achieve through androgen manipulation is otherworldly, to say the least. I've got a client right now who's peaking in his off-season cycle and just putting on as much mass as he can right now. And every day he gets to work, and his clients and his coworkers are like, "Dude, you look like a balloon animal. Like, what is going on?" And and we'll transition from this phase of being on full blast into a period of trying to maintain that. Obviously, he's not going to be on cycle. He'll be on back to TRT. And then we'll start to ramp up again into prep for nationals at the end of this year. So fullness is high now. We're trying to acquire tissue. We're going to sacrifice some fullness for a period of health restoration. And then we'll fire right back up and bring that fullness and that leanness right back at the end of the year and be peaking right around December time for national.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So and that's something else. I've been kind of scanning through your socials and seeing some of the people you work with, and I've seen some great things coming through there.
We're getting there.
How long have you been working with clients, especially with the prep for shows?
So I do want to get back to what we talked about with gear. So let's not forget about. I did have
get back to that psychological side of that.
We will get back to that. I started working with clients as far back as 2013, but that was more of kind of like a lifestyle part-time athletes, former friends of mine that I was training kind of on the side of what I was regularly doing. And then 2014, I started working at Gold's part-time. And then in 2015 was when I first started competing and had the audacity to think that I was ready to prep one of my friends for a bikini competition at the same time.
Oh,
And
that's how it goes. Hey, I competed. I can prep someone. It's crazy how many people just, yeah, I could do that.
yeah, and in hindsight, like it's not ideal, like for that person going being your guinea pig, and it's not ideal to like be in a real situation, but there's no other way to learn, you know.
Yeah.
You just got to start somewhere, and thankfully, she was trusting of me, and she ended up doing pretty well. I mean, it was definitely a learning experience, and like a lot of the things I did, I would not do now, as far as like prepping somebody, obviously. Um, Nothing dangerous or anything like that.
I'm about
But
to say,
just,
I probably think about how you probably were from the first time when you did yourself, because I know how I was when I did
yeah,
my first prep.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
never would do half of the stuff I do what he did
no,
then.
and I would never ever recommend for anybody to try to do their own prep for a show. That was part of the craziness. So, but I'm gonna put my phone up a little bit higher. I feel like I'm looking down. My neck is good. Okay. So yeah, coached her in 2015. 2016, I didn't coach any clients, but I started making the move into being a personal trainer. Sorry, I didn't train any competition clients, but I started making the move into starting to do more lifestyle clients, um, in person, one-on-one stuff. And I actually had hired after the show we did together, the
Uh-huh.
Hurricane. I hired a coach. I hired Jamie Aboni, and he's here in Orlando, and he was actually opening a gym at the time. So that was perfect for me to start taking on one-on-one personal training clients, and start kind of building up more confidence, working with people in person.
So,
Um,
yeah, that works. That's an important side of it too. So like
yeah,
you said, you went from mainly doing just more of the lifestyle, healthy habits, getting people to be more of the,
more conscious.
yeah, from that, and then kind of transitioning to doing more of the show prep. Now, as we were kind of mentioning earlier, we kind of started to touch on working with, first off, experiencing it as one thing, but then
Yes.
working with other people and trying to coach them through the process of prepping for a competition. You can never underestimate or even downplay the importance of the psychological side of things,
No,
because
it's 90% of it, honestly. And what um, this is kind of perfect because right around this time when Jamie started opening the gym at the beginning of 2017, uh, and then into 2018 was right when I was starting to learn a lot about the mentality of competing in bodybuilding, the mentality of managing your longevity, managing your drugs, and then also managing like your health through like insulin resistance and getting blood work done and starting to consider all the things that normal bodybuilders don't necessarily consider. Starting to look into things like inflammation reduction, starting to look into things like peptides, starting to look into things like probiotics, starting to look into things like gut biome. You
gosh, I
know,
was trying to talk to someone about that. I couldn't remember the word. I'm like, it was peptides that I was trying to talk to someone else about today. I'm like, there's something else, kind of
what's
a
that one
more.
thing? It's not steroids, but it's kind of steroids.
All I can say is like it starts with a P. I couldn't
Yeah.
couldn't get my mind on it.
Right. So, right around this time in 2017 was when I kind of started to tap into like um, being an outside the box thinker when it comes to bodybuilding. Like obviously, I still have all the same thoughts: proteins, fats, carbs. But I always like to consider.
Yeah, fundamentals are always there.
Yeah, I always like to consider things outside the box as well, and really look into like people's day-to-day lifestyle and think about how they can be better as a person, and then that translates into them being a better competitor as well.
You
um,
can't negate the importance of that.
no,
It controls, because all of it's going to have a chemical response to your body,
100%.
and if you're stressed out emotionally, work, family, or just a little distance, it that's going to affect your recovery. That's going to affect your sleep. And you can't really push yourself in the gym, especially if you're prepping. You're already at a state where you're, you can't handle, you can't handle, it's an extra stressor. So then to have stressors other places, not knowing how to manage them, then it's just worse. They just compile.
Especially if you're somebody who's unorganized, and not prepared. I mean, you can't understate the importance of being prepared and being organized, when you're going through prep. And I tell a lot of people, hey man, if you can make every day look exactly the same, you wake up at the same time, you eat each meal at the same time, you train at the same time, it's going to make your life so much easier. And a lot of people don't have the luxury to do that. I totally understand that we have outside things, but in an ideal world, if somebody was like, hey, make me a plan for Mr. Olympia. You're waking up at the same time every day. You're eating the same shit at the same time. Your body likes the routine. A lot of people don't even aren't conscious of their body's routine. A perfect example is, you start going to bed a little bit earlier, you're going to start waking up a little bit earlier. There's a cause and effect to everything that goes on.
Yep. And yep. You said it. And that's one of the things I love about the bodybuilding lifestyle, especially when you get into prep. For me, it simplifies everything. I have to be organized. I have to be a little more rigid, and I don't miss things. I feel like I'm better in all aspects of life because I have to be so organized.
Yes. And well, when you are so regimented too, and when you do deny yourself those daily treats and you have to ration your treats or ration the stuff out, like it makes it that much better when you do have it and when you do get it, So a lot of people are so afraid that, oh, my free meals, my cheat meals. It's like you've had free meals for 30 years. You can wait.
You'll be all right.
Yeah.
So let's kind of backtrack to the psychological parts, in and out of cycles, on prep and off season.
Yes.
Let's say your personal experience, and then now that you've had your hands in some other clients in their journey, tell me some of the things that you see and things that people should watch out for.
Yes. So kind of really just picking up exactly where we left off this time around 2017 to 2018. Kind of start to, be like, damn, some of my blood markers aren't really where I want them. I have to kind of be more conscious of time spent off cycle. Obviously, blasting it. Well, in these circles, blasting and cruising is a very popular way to go about things, where people will run a very heavy cycle, which they'll call a blast. And then instead of coming off testosterone or anabolics or hormones completely, they'll just bridge with a much lower dose of testosterone and kind of stay on. And then I'm sure you also have people that just kind of stay on all year round without ever bridging. But from 2015 to 2018, I was essentially doing a blasting and cruising, but I wasn't getting my blood work done every time I was doing a cruise. I was kind of just assuming things were fine because you assume that you're invulnerable.
Young guy, you're healthy, you're good.
All and every threat out there. But then, you start getting your blood work done and your lipids are in the 250s or 300s, or your HDL cholesterol, your good cholesterol is 30. And you're like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, all right, well, what do I do about it? There has to be something to do. You can't just hope it's going to get, thoughts and prayers aren't going to make it better.
Yeah, got to do some work.
You go, okay, well, I got to go get some niacin from Vitamin Shop, and I'm going to take niacin for 6 weeks, and then I'm going to get my blood work checked again. I'm going to make sure that everything's fine before I start to do whatever I need to do again to get to the next phase of this bodybuilding career. But in finding that out, when you do take the time off is when you do encounter those psychological battles. Obviously, when you're on cycle, a lot of things are going great mentally. There are definitely people that don't have the mental euphoric state when they're on cycle. That's kind of rare, though. There's definitely people out there that will be anxious, more aggressive, more stressed out while they're on cycle. But 90% of the time, everybody really enjoys being on cycle. And then you come off and you see that fullness starts to fade. Yeah. And you're like, damn, like I said, you're like, damn, I'm losing all this new tissue I just acquired. That's really not motivating to see, but in reality, you're just kind of going flat. You're not losing any muscle. That takes a long time to literally lose muscle tissue. So a lot of people see that and they'll get discouraged and they'll be like, wow, I need the gear.
Yeah, so I got to get back on.
I got to get back on right away. And they will jump back on as soon as they can. And that's how problems start to arise. I don't know if you know anybody who's been affected long-term, but I know several people who their blood pressure was so high for so long that they need valve work done in their heart. So
yeah. Well, there was a kid that got pretty popular. Like I say, I was going to, he was a friend of a friend and he wanted, get ready to do his first show or something like that. And his friend mentioned me to him. He's like, yeah, Greg might be able to work with you and help you and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I'll see what I can do, help you get prepped. But he told me, he's like, I'm going to work on going on this cycle. And I'm like, I'm be honest with you, that's not my area. I can't do too much with that. But if you need help with the nutrition side of things, I'm good there. So he ended up going a different route. But
it's good of you that you acknowledge that, though, because some people, they won't tell you. They'll be like, oh, yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, no, I'm not touching that. Not until I get all the knowledge, all the information that I can give you. Nah. Yeah. Or, but he ended up being on it and going so hard for so long. This kid had a heart attack at the age of 20. And I mean, I'm still in touch with him a little bit. I asked him the other day. Yeah. And that's it. It's just like, didn't know any better. And whoever the people around him didn't know any better. And I was talking to him about a couple weeks ago and he stepped away from that. I think he stepped away from bodybuilding, honestly, because that experience, like you can do that to you.
That's hard.
Yeah. And he was like, yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm going a different way now. And I'm just working on calisthenics and he's in a whole different lifestyle. And I'm like, hey, more power to you, but sorry that had to happen, but it's not something to play around with. You need to have the right information, the right people. And yeah.
And we need to start making it known that it's doable as naturals. I know how many times do you get people being like, oh, you're just on steroids.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just, so this is where about that time of 2018, transitioning 2017 to 2018, where I started to be like, okay, the majority of your time has to be spent off cycle. The majority of your time is spent either natural or on TRT. Like if you need the hormones for TRT, be on TRT. That's fine. You can survive on that and be completely fine for the rest of your life on TRT. But for most 90% of your NPC competitive athletes, you don't need to be blasting all year round. Like that's not going to get you anywhere. You're just going to have horrible health markers. You're going to have a little bit more muscle inflammation, a little bit more muscle fullness. But if you know your training and if you know your nutrition, you can be the most competitive NPC competitor in your local shows that you ever wanted to be. Obviously, that's not going to get a lot of people to the pro level, but
unless you're a genetic freak,
not everybody's
still going to be hard.
not everybody's made to go to the pro level. It's not for everybody. So, it's an uphill battle. Trying to turn people's mind around on that, and trying to be like, hey, less is more. More is not always more, and it's so hard for a lot of people to understand that. And in 2018, I really started taking clients on with the mindset of, we're going to do this my way, and we're going to throw out everything you know about nutrition, and we're going to do this with the approach of building the best body we can for the long term. I took people on, they're like, oh, I want to cut down for a wedding in 6 weeks. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to start with some great habits that are going to get you going in that direction, but I'm going to give you the tools and the skills and the knowledge you need to continue this for 6 years, not 6 weeks, or 60 years.
There you go.
But, like when we've been coming up in this field, social media in the fitness industry has been super prominent, and you see the people on there that are doing the flashy shit and that are doing the clickbait stuff and making the high production value videos and doing the collaborations, and they're going to events and they're doing the travel and they're going to expos and they're doing all this stuff, and it looks great. But both you and I have been people that have stood true to our roots. We've been honest with our clients. We've prioritized being honest with our clients and being realistic with people. And I think that it's something that I take a lot of pride in.
For sure.
I feel really good about that. And I build my brand off of that. And I never want anybody to be like, oh, Taylor is a misleading person when it comes to fitness. I always want people to be like, oh, he's going to shoot you straight no matter if it's something you don't want to hear or not, and I think that there's more and more of us that are holding strong, and I think eventually the fad of fitness will pass.
Yeah.
And all of this
there'll be a little bit more separation between fitness and OnlyFans.
Yes, exactly. So, I think that we're going to continue to offer what we've been offering to our clients for the long term. And I think that our business is going to continue to take off, and all these flashy, foo-foo lame stuff, TikTokers are going to start to die down. And I hope that we can continue to spread the good word and spread the patience and spread the trusting of the process.
I was going to say, it's a process. That's the thing. It's a process.
It's hard. It's not easy. It's hard to be patient. It's easy to execute the day in and day out, but it's hard to be patient for the long term.
I have the example I always use, and not to knock my wife or profession at all. My wife's a hairstylist, but I'm like, what I do and what you do. There you go. I'm like, what I do and you do is a little different, because I help people. Yes, we both can help people to become beautiful and better. But what I do, I ask people to do something. Right. I can't do it for them. I can't go in and say, haha, here you go. Weight's gone. Where someone comes and sits in your chair, they leave and they're good. Yeah. I'm like, so it's not easy. It takes time, and you have to put some effort behind it. Yeah. It's,
trying to get people to buy into that when that's not what they come to you for is difficult. I love it when I get somebody that's like, here's the reins, you tell me what to do. Oh. That's the best thing in the world. But
so you know everything. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Oh.
Yeah. So,
and then they actually check in with you and
dude, when you get a client that's just killing it and like they're doing everything you say, and that synergy is building over time, and like that momentum of continuing to increase the food, continuing to increase the training difficulty, just, giving them more responsibility, being like, okay, we're going to push it. We're going to go hard here. And you just see them push themselves, and to see them gain more confidence in themselves is one of the most rewarding things about being a coach is like when everything's just going right and they're doing everything they need to be doing.
Hell, I love to brag about my clients when I can
It
get something
feels
like
so
that to
good.
just talk about.
Yep. Yep.
Now, speaking on that, tell me about the system that you use. So I've seen you with you did do a nice little promo with someone I saw in your Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I have a pretty solid understanding of it, but I wanted you to kind of break it down because it reminds me of stuff that I did when I was in rehab. So before I started training, I was a rehab tech because I was going physical therapy,
Right.
but it looks a lot like you got some stuff the electrical stimulation, doing like co-contractions and things like that. And so tell me about it.
Okay, so it's called INS, Interactive Neuromuscular Stimulation, and it's a lot. I'm going to try to put it on a level where people who don't really know about the rehab space are going to understand. Because I know that we're going to have people out there that are going to know what a TENS unit is, but I know we're also going to have people that don't know what a TENS unit is. It's the NX Pro is the name of the machine. It's like a TENS unit on steroids. Essentially, it's a very refined TENS unit. You have the ability to obviously just crank up the electric current and use it just like a TENS unit without any of like the refined frequency, but you can also dial in the frequency to kind of match your brain's frequency. So like with the TENS unit, you're applying that current to the muscle and you're kind of letting the current control the muscle. It's just kind of contracted and you can't really do anything about it. With the NX Pro, you're giving the current to the muscle, but because it's in the same frequency that your brain operates at, you're kind of letting your brain do the contraction.
Man, but you're saying I'm keep going, but I think if you're saying what I think you're saying, that is really cool because I didn't know that.
Yeah. So essentially, it's working with your brain to help the muscle make a full contraction. It's great for people who have injuries where their body has kind of forgotten how to move properly. You get areas where, because the body is protecting a certain area from injuring itself more, it'll kind of shut off the oxygen and blood flow to certain muscles. And it's really hard for people to target those in training. Like, I have a little bit of an area on my quad where I had a little bit of a quad tear. And my body, I would have the hardest time getting a pump there just because my body was protecting that area. But as soon as I get that machine on there, it brings that blood flow and that contraction right back without me really having to do anything to change my movement. It just kind of helps me to establish that connection.
It's like a booster.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like opening up your nerve channels to allow your brain to talk to your muscles better.
So, as you were first explaining to it, tell me if I'm getting the understanding properly. So, let's say I'm working my pecs. Yes. So I have the electrode set to gauge whatever fibers I'm trying to. Does the machine, let's say I'm working in a chest fly, instead of like we were talking about the TENS unit where it just sends the current and it forces a contraction. Are you saying that there is like a ready, way I can explain it in my head is like a potential that's there and ready, and as you contract, it intensifies?
Yes, essentially. So when you also have to consider that one of the pads is a sending unit and one of the pads is a receiving unit. So one is a positive and one is a ground. So when I'm training, like you said, say we're training chest, right? I'm going to put the sending unit on the bigger muscle, and then I'm going to put the receiving unit on your secondary muscle. So I'll put the sending unit on your pec, and then I'll put the secondary unit on your tricep or your shoulder, because that's secondary in a chest press. So what I'm looking to do there is I'm looking to give you just enough stimulation to where you are grooving each rep without really coming out of that groove. but not giving you too much stimulation to where it starts locking you up.
Gotcha.
You are in total control of your movement. The machine is not locking you up at any point, obviously, unless I just crank the shit out of it. But when it's operated properly, yes, it's giving you to have that potential energy to be here and to not be locked up, to be in full stretch, and then to have the assist to get you through and have a full contraction in your trouble spot, whatever the trouble spot may be.
And with that type of mode of training, what's like the frequency that you would typically use?
It depends totally on how you use it. You can use the machine with no load. If you're really looking to kind of start at square one, like if you've got somebody who is either in a rehab state where they are just starting to use that muscle again, you could train it every day if you're not going to train it with any load on it. But you would have to be very cognizant about hydration, stretching, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But if you're looking to use it in more of a bodybuilding sense, which it does also have that application, I think that maybe 1 or 2 times a week is more than enough, because it definitely has the ability to fatigue you beyond what you'd be able to achieve yourself. So say in an instance, you have your hardest leg workout ever, right? Say take your hardest leg workout ever. And when you get that blood work, say you went and got blood work done immediately after you had that, you had blood work done immediately after that session, and your creatine kinase score is like 1400, which is basically a measure of like potassium in your blood and how fast your kidneys are able to get rid of calcium and creatine and potassium that's been released into your blood from muscle breakdown. Say you went and had that same exact leg workout, but with the NX Pro on your legs, you're eliciting so much more contractions that the potential for you to achieve rhabdomyolysis levels of creatine kinase scores, the potential is definitely there. Because obviously you can give yourself rhabdo without the machine. Yeah. So adding in that extra intensity, your person on using the machine definitely has to be cognizant of what they're doing to not overdo it. So I've had instances where people will go to use I've heard about instances, this has not happened to me. People will go to use the NX Pro in a drying out fashion pre-contest, and will actually end up causing more inflammation and more water retention.
I mean, that just sounds like not something you'd want to do, just in my mind.
There are ways to use it properly pre-contest to dry out, but definitely overdoing it is going to negate any type of benefit that you would have achieved otherwise.
I'm going to look into that. That sounds interesting. So yeah, man. Those are those like fringe type areas where it's just like, okay, these are just that extra.
I will come out. I will say, if you are truly in the rehab space, and like helping people back from injury, I think that's when that machine is most beneficial. I bought the machine under more of a little bit of I guess you'd say a false pretense now, but I had an understanding that it was very beneficial for bodybuilders when I first purchased it. But now through my personal experience, I think it's much better suited in a rehab space.
Yeah. And I mean, and there's, bodybuilders get injured.
Right. No, I'm not saying that. But in terms of like muscle growth, a lot of people will market this machine as like the key to like growing your legs, or like, the key to getting to the next level. And I think it does help people achieve more range of motion. I do think it helps them achieve better activation. But I don't think it helps hypertrophy any faster than you normally would.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Yeah, that was one of the things I really wanted to kind of touch on and kind of dive into a little bit. But as we get ready to kind of tie things up a little bit, you've been in the fitness industry, you've had to go through the prep, the the intense learning experience, things that you build throughout your career. What has that been like on you and your personal life?
Um,
I know that's a big, vague question, but
it's a good question because um, a lot of people, like we talked about before we even got on here, a lot of people are trying to become trainers and trying to make a career out of the fitness industry, and it's hard. It's very saturated. It's a small community, but it's very dense with people who are trying to coach others. Um, I mean, if you're a competitor, you're also a coach nowadays, it seems like. So, um, no, but for real, in terms of how it's been for me, it's been great. I am very thankful that I get to do something that's not a typical 9 to 5 desk job. I get to do something that I really enjoy. Um, I went through periods of time where I was uh, frustrated with how slow it is. But that's being your
yeah.
own boss and being independent and uh, trying to build your own brand. It's going to be hard, and
Yeah.
it's hard for a reason. Not everybody is going to make it through to the other side. Um, I think that when I see people trying to make it in this industry now, I think about how confident I was when I first started and how much more I wish I would have been open minded when I first started. And instead of, people say it a lot. This is going to sound cliche, but you want to be listening more than you want to be talking. And, just being backstage at NPC shows and being in the gym and just hearing all the stuff that people have to say. It's been a great journey because I get to hear so many different perspectives and I
Yeah.
get to hear so many different stories about my body does this, or I used to be this and now I'm this, or I didn't think I could do it but now I'm here. And I'm just thankful that I get to do this something every day that I enjoy, and I don't have to sit at a desk and listen to somebody yell at me or boss me around.
Yeah. 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 And I want to I know it's getting close to where I wanted to kind of wrap it, but I still have to ask this question because it's
Yeah,
important to
of
me.
course. I have
Because
plenty of
this
time.
is the basis of what I like to kind of bring out on here is people look at you, they know your career and what you do, but you're so that's my whole purpose though. It's more than muscle. So there's a lot more to you in the gym and training people. And do you find yourself do you struggle at all? I know I did for a while and I'm still trying to come out of it, where you have to say, as my body starts to change, as I'm aging and it's breaking down, I'm like, I can't have my identity be solely wrapped into something like me being the strong fit guy
Right.
or me being the bodybuilder, because it's not going to be there forever. Um, how are you on that kind of spectrum of
Um,
training, bodybuilding, and
and,
identity?
and this is something that I've even talked with my girlfriend Brie about recently. Is obviously as recently as my last competition, I felt hey, my body doesn't respond the same as it used to, and it's going to happen to everybody at a certain point in time. But I do think there's definitely ways to continue to make the best out of what you've got. And I think that's a fun part of the challenge, is to kind of be like, okay, I can't do this anymore, but how can I still get the best out of whatever I've got going on? I, even though like my personal identity is being a bodybuilder and being an athlete, um, I think that part of my new identity is going to be being a coach and still being in the same space, you know, still being around the same stuff I love, but just getting that competitive thrill through coaching the athletes instead of being one of the athletes.
So fun.
Yeah,
So
very fun. Very fun. I love it.
I actually got for the first time to be at one of my clients' shows last year. I might have been more excited for him than I ever been for myself. It was so cool. Yep. So cool to be there and actually see it.
Have you had a client win like an overall?
Not yet. Not yet.
Dude. It's awesome. You'll get there.
I was loud as could be just then. I mean, he got I think that guy, it was his first show, so he ended up with a couple seconds and a third, and
just getting awards. You're like, hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah. So it's great. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So I don't have any issue with it. I'm gonna keep doing what I need to do to keep trying to be an athlete and to just keep trying to feel good. And I honestly just, you know, want to look good too. So whatever it takes to just kind of maintain that. And, you know, I see that there's plenty of guys in our industry that look good still into their 50s and 60s.
Exactly.
So
yep.
I know
it's possible.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's all good.
Well, I think that's a good enough point. So Taylor, man, it's really been good catching up with you, and I enjoy seeing what you're doing. Keep doing it, and again, being real and honest and open, telling people, hey, there's a better way. Especially if you want to have that longevity in life and athletics, and even in the bodybuilding lifestyle.
Yeah, you can't be pedal to the metal 24/7. You gotta know when to push.
So just let people know where they can reach out to you if anyone had any questions or wanted to get to meet you or work with you in any kind of way. I know you're still out there in Florida, so.
Yep. I'm down here in Orlando. I'm exclusively training out of Ironclad Gym right now. I do go around to some other gyms in the area, but pretty much exclusively Ironclad. My Instagram is DieselTay. If you're just solely looking to skip through all that and just inquire about the coaching, it's teamtayfit.com or teamtayfit@gmail.com, and just shoot me an email, you know. But don't want to take away from anybody that would be hitting up Greg for coaching. He knows his shit as well. So, but just you know, would love to do another one of these with you. I think we definitely have more topics to cover
for sure.
So, we'll do it again,
man.
For sure.
Yeah, man, this is good. We both definitely have some different areas that we can definitely dig into. So, again, thank you for being a part of this.
Of course, thank you for having me.
Next time, it's me, you know, trainer Greg McBride, aka Mr. More Than Muscle, the Dad Bod Destroyer. And as always, guys, be more than muscle.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, y'all.
All right, peace.